caves and margaritas. Joe and Gavin talking about their favorite features.
Hi guys, welcome to Man Caves.
And Margaret, and espresso martinis.
I've got an espresso martini and Duke 01 here.
Yes, welcome. Big welcome, actually.
Thank you very much.
What have you got?
I have an orange juice. That's orange juice.
Oh, look at you.
An OJ.
Very, very nice, very fresh.
He's got it.
So this is Duke 01. He's our guest this week and he's chosen the film.
Yes.
And it's a good film.
So, Duke, do you want to tell everybody what you've chose?
The film I chose is one of my lifetime favourites, Bladerunner. We watched Blade Runner the final cut this evening.
And not only that, for the very first time on a 4K TV, I got to see it in 4K. So thanks for that.
What would you call it? A 4K remaster? Or?
Yes, yeah, it's a remaster. There's a couple of scenes that have been retouched up, especially for the release. So yeah, something of a remaster.
Wow. I mean, that's the first thing I want to say, and I'm sure it's the first thing you want to say too, is for me, that was like watching it again as a new film.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
It looks, I mean, not every scene, because you'd like to see the bit of grain in some of the darker scenes but the outside scenes of the Tyrrell Corporation and the cityscapes and the what are the police cars called? The spinners. My God.
Yeah.
Those scenes were stunning, right?
Yeah, I've never really seen the film like that. I felt like I watched it in a way. I've never seen it before. I've never known a film have such a different effect just by being remastered.
Yeah.
It was a completely different experience. So thanks for choosing.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. It's a great choice. I'm ready to get gushing about it because I love Ridley Scott, right?
Yeah.
But why do you think that's your favourite film?
Well, it's one of many favourites, but it's a film that I've loved from the moment it came out. I think originally when it came out, I was of an age where I couldn't go and see it at the cinema.
Right.
But I'd seen Harrison Ford as Han Solo. He'd then become Indiana Jones, and Raiders of the Lost Ark was and is still one of my favourite films of all time.
Yeah, agreed.
And then here he was again in another movie. I desperately wanted to see it, but I'm too young to see it. But why did I choose it? I chose it because on the surface, it's a very simple A to B story of good guy chase bad guy, catch bad guy.
Yeah.
But upon repeated watches or upon discussion, it's a film that just really opens up on many.
It's got loads of layers to
absolutely.
Yeah, loads of layers, and I think so Ridley Scott is my favourite director because he's directed my favourite film of all time, which is Alien.
Okay.
And
I saw that episode of Man Cave and Marguerite's where he talks about.
There you go. Yeah. So rewatching his Blade Runner, and again, I feel guilty for saying it now that I've just seen it again. Having rewatched it, having not seen it for, I bet I've not watched the original Blade Runner for about 15 years,
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And that feels quite scandalous to me, actually, because of how great I've had the whole experience. It's fantastic. Why have I not watched it for so long? Why is it not there in the format of my mind?
Yeah, that is surprising, actually. I mean, I've seen that film, must be 10 times now. And, every time I watch it, I feel like I learned something a bit new, a bit different about it. Because, like you say, it has got lots and lots of layers. And seeing it in this version, this remastered director's cut version, absolutely mind blown. I'm a bit speechless, actually.
there were bits in there which I couldn't remember because of how few times I've seen. I mean, that's probably the 5th time only I've ever seen that.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So from 1982, I think it came out to now. I've only seen it 5 times now, that being the 5th time, right? And that's apart from and I'll be honest, apart from the first time I watched it when I knew nothing about it at all, that's probably my second most enjoyable experience of watching it because of the gap gap in between me last seeing it, not remembering as much as I might have done when I rewatched it previously. The fact I'm a bit older as well, so I can get more into the the layers of it you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about now you're a bit older, because when I used to watch it when I was younger, I used to be like, oh my god, look at the science fiction city, look at all the landscapes and all the lights and the fog and everything like that. But now I'm a bit older when I watch it, it's the story.
Yeah.
Obviously the backdrop's amazing and things, but the depth of the story is
The
really
world.
interesting. Yeah, the world. Yeah.
I think what's interesting that you said about having seen it only 5 times since it was released in '82, there's 5 recognised cuts of Bladerunner.
5?
This being the final one, the final director's cut. So
Really?
I wonder whether you've seen a different cut each and every time
Right.
you've seen it, because there's originally the film had the narration in that.
Yes,
House
the narration
of
was the first one
Yeah.
I saw. Would that sound about right?
Yeah,
That would have been on video because
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough to see it.
yeah,
originally,
that's the first time I saw it.
So I saw it with the narration by Harrison. I saw that on VHS. I think I then saw it when it came out on just normal terrestrial TV.
Yeah.
When we had 3 channels. Do you remember that? Just 3
No,
channels.
I'm not old enough.
I recorded it off the TV.
There you go. VHS.
Yeah.
And then I think I've only seen the director's cut which is no narration, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Got that right?
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen that version one time.
So this, what cut is this then?
This is the final cut, the final director's cut.
And was this available before this 4K remaster?
Not entirely like this, because as I say, there were some bits that were touched up
Was it?
specifically for this.
Right. What, like a bit of CGI touching up?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because some of the scenes were absolutely shocking. The colours were absolutely beautiful. And everything was so clean.
The side of the Tyrrell Corp building when the lifts are going up.
And you can see every little detail.
I mean, that's been touched up since, hasn't it? Surely. Because that's a model, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's obviously, back in 1982, they filmed everything with models. But when I was looking at this version, because you could see every single light and every single window, I was thinking, there's no way they could build a model and put in an actual individual light.
It's as it was.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that is as it was.
Right. They haven't like CGI'd in extra lights and things.
You know what? Maybe. I don't know.
The movement of the spinners as well. But there's one particular scene where he's coming in, and I think he's actually coming in and to land on the top of the Tyrrell building, and the spinner comes around really super smooth, like really smooth.
Yeah.
And I wondered if maybe they used some of the tech with this version to smooth anything out, because I generally can't remember how,
It's been cleaned up an awful lot.
It just looks so...
Yeah,
It looks fresh, doesn't it?
So when you
really
get a film now that's like got loads of CGI in, and they're filming on green screens and things, and it never looks like it lacks a bit of soul. This technically looks absolutely amazing, but because it's filmed on film, it's got that organic quality to it, hasn't it? Where it touches your soul. You feel like you're in there with it.
I loved going from those scenes where it just had that look to it, but then you go to a darker scene and it would become this bit more film noir, and you'd have that sort of little bit of grain because it was darker and, as you say, shot on film and stuff like that as well. And I like the contrast between those two sort of scenes that you go to as well, because it really is. It's would you call it an outright sci-fi film noir? I mean, you could in a way, I suppose. A thriller.
It's all of those things,
Isn't it?
I think.
It's
just all of those layers.
I used to think that the replicants were bad guys, right? But now watching it again as an older man, and you get the nuances of it. When he says that line about, how is it to feel fear? That's what it's like to be a slave. It makes you suddenly think, that's what they were being treated as. They were being given memories, being made to feel human, but then just being, chunked off to planets to do
like
jobs, body work and stuff.
It's a very simple story, isn't it? But it's giving quite a lot of layers.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of allergies allegories that in
Allegory. No.
Allegedly.
Legoly.
allegories.
Yeah.
Yeah. About like well, I don't want to like. I think anyone that would watch it could pull out their own allegories about what they're talking about. So I don't think there's any right and wrong. But,
Absolutely.
Did you feel sorry? That's the first time I've proper felt sorry for the replicants, even though I know they killed a lot of people, which is not a good thing, and innocent people as well have died. But by the end of it, I feel really sorry for them.
You know, that's one of the, I'm always saying to Gavin when we're not filming, and one of the reasons I love doing Man Caves and Margaritas is you watch a film and it forces you to look at it in a completely different light than if you're just chilling in your house or whatever. And I'm wondering if I got so much from Blade Runner this time about the deeper meanings of the stories and, their side of the story and stuff. I'm not sure I would have got that if I wasn't like thinking about it critically as I'm watching it.
Yeah.
It then just becomes that good guy chases bad guy story when you're chilling by yourself, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's not that simple. It's not cut and dry.
At all.
Really isn't cut and dried, and I like that. Did you get? I don't know if this was purposely. So you'll probably know this as a huge fan of them. But and again, I don't know whether it's because we're watching a really, really cool version. I don't know if this was done as part of the touch-up or not. But whenever they were showing a replicant, there'd always be a moment where their eyes would have this glaze on them in a certain light.
Yeah.
So
that's always been there. And it's one of the things that's posed that question around, is Deckard a replicant?
Because there's
one scene where he walks behind
Rachel, and his eyes are.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I was like, because I've not picked up on that before. Okay, was he? Is he? Isn't he? That sort of thing. But the glazed eyes.
And Ridley Scott kind of makes it overt with the. Forgive me if I jump around with you.
No, go for it. Sorry.
With the scene where Deckard's sitting at the piano, he's very much awake. He makes it clear that he's awake, and he has the vision of the unicorn. And then at the end, it makes it all the more poignant that Gaff gives him the foil unicorn, the origami unicorn. So how does he know?
Because there's the suggestion again. Is the suggestion that James Olmos's character is that called Gaff?
Yeah.
When at the start, when you meet him, he does his origami.
Yeah.
So is the suggestion at the end that he might also be a replicant, or is the suggestion that he has been to he's been to Harrison Ford's apartment, Deckard's apartment. He's left that origami unicorn there himself as a message to Deckard that he knows.
So I think what's implied, I think this is the beauty of art. What I kind of take from it is that Gaff has indeed been to the apartment. He knows that Rachel's in there. It's a shame she won't live, but then again, who does want to say she won't last? He leaves the origami unicorn, which suggests that he knows that Deckard's had that vision. How would he know that Deckard had had that vision?
Yeah. So is that scene with the unicorn and an implanted memory, because the replicant's getting memories implanted in it? Is that one that
I think that's what's
suggested, implied.
Yeah. But there is no right and wrong, is there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is genius.
Because there are other moments where there was a moment where when Deckard gets his fingers broken, I still find that right when he's busting his fingers with wall. My brain went, oh, well, he was a replicant, he wouldn't feel pain. And then only about 3 minutes later, Batty picks an air light to fix his hand, pushes it through his hand, and he clearly feels the pain. They can't feel cold and they can't feel heat on their skin, but when they bust the skin, they feel it. He even says, doesn't he, after Deckard's smashed him in the face with like a steel pipe, the next time he busts out, he went, that hurt. And it's like, so there's still no definitive answer, is there? It's like,
what I was thinking when I was watching it, right, was imagine if you were replicated into this world and you had 4 years to live. No,
and knowing that.
Imagine the insanity.
I'm glad you've raised that, because for me, that ties into what I think is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the film, which is where Rachel finally understands that she's a replicant.
Yeah.
When Deckard gives her the implanted memories that she hasn't told anybody. And to put yourself in that position and to fully empathise with the character, can you imagine understanding that I'm not real? All my life I thought, but I'm not even real.
It's a beautiful,
crazy.
beautiful moment because she just has that single tear. I don't know how actors are able to do that, by the way. To
On command.
Yeah. But she just has that single tear runs down her cheek. The knowing is, it's heartbreaking.
Well, it takes them out of the actors. It emotionally, they can only do a few takes where they have to cry and stuff because they're pulling from actual real world memories that make them want to cry, and it's quite harrowing for them. So when you see it done like that, so real and natural, it's really impressive.
I think
I was going to say because obviously me and Gavin are here all the time. Have you got any questions? You chose the film. Have you got any questions that you're interested in what we think?
Oh, about the film. We've answered a lot of my questions about, because I said to you before we began that I was almost jealous that you guys were gonna get to experience it in 4K for the first time, because it is it's something to see and something to experience.
I'm just going to put my dog out the back because I don't know if you can pick it up, but she's wide.
Shuffling. So what would I ask Gavin about the film after not seeing it for so long? What are the key themes that you take away after not seeing it for so
long? I think this time round I've taken a lot more interest in what it must be like to be the replicant in the story. And like I was saying before, this time round, I actually feel sorry for them. I know, again, they've done bad things, and I get that, and I understand. But the way that we as humans have treated that sort of AI is wrong. Because I know there's this question about AI, isn't there, how far it goes. But if we ever created something that could think for itself, have its own emotions, well, surely haven't we just created another human, except in a different way? So to then treat that person in the same way we would just treat a toaster and think it's okay is it's not right.
It asks a lot of questions.
They weren't getting retired, were they? They were getting, what was it, scrapped. I can't remember what it says at the beginning.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, they were execution.
But we say retired.
Yeah.
And the idea, sorry to talk over, I was just about to say, it's the point you raised as well. The idea that they have implanted memories, but at some point, they've obviously, the replicants that have come back to Earth, at some point have found out that they've got 4 years. And really all they're trying to do in their own way is find out a way of extending the life that they're living. So I think, yes, so to answer your question, I think, yes, I think for me this time round, I've definitely taken a lot more from the film by looking at the replicant's point of view.
You know what's interesting, right? I think our outlook on that film is different than it would have been just 10 years ago because of the advent of AI now. Yeah. There is a real world AI explosion that started about 2 years ago. And I even thought about it when I was watching the film. You know the bit where he gets the photograph and there's the mirror. And I remember years ago when he's like zoom in, go to the left, and it was like adjusting its angle and stuff like that. I thought that's just stupid. That's just science fiction, isn't it? But you'll be able to do that with AI, you know. So like my iPhone's got such a good camera. If I'm outside and I take a photo with loads of light, I can zoom in absolutely shitloads, and it's still super sharp. And with like AI, it'll be like, I'll work it out what's around that corner and do it for you. You know? And I think like the more we get closer to the reality of a film like that, the more you can take from watching it in the story, because it becomes like a reality you can actually believe in.
Because it's funny, isn't it? When I didn't laugh because it was funny, but I laughed a little bit when the date came up, and I do that sometimes. When you have films that are made in the 80s showing a future, and then we have actually now gone and surpassed the date.
We're 5 years past it.
Yeah, 2019 it came up of the date, and these were supposed to have been originally, the replicas were built in 2016 and so forth. And then you look at the tech that they've got, and sometimes they do show tech that you think, well, actually they've got that quite nice, like the video call with Rachel that he has. even back in the early 80s, was like, what? You can see someone while you're talking to them on the phone. Well, now we're hitting that breathe easy, aren't we? And then other things you look at and you think, yeah, still got big TV monitors and and stuff. It's quite interesting.
Maybe because I was 9 years old, but when it came out and I saw it on VHS, it all seemed plausible because 40 odd years away was a lifetime away, and a whole world away. So hover cars. I knew we were getting those. I knew.
That's
Where are they?
I think until we've actually gotten rid of all our petrol resources,
technology ain't that good though, is it? Like, they've got these replicants, and the only way they can find out if there's a replicant is to look at their eye and see if they like flinch when they're lying or something.
And ask them about turtles. What are turtles? Replicant.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you had a turtle in front of you and it was on its back, if you don't answer that question correctly, we know you are a replicant.
You're not real.
Especially if your iris just dilutes slightly. And I love the fact that I really, really liked it when the Tyrrell, I can't remember his name, the Tyrrell guy, top guy, Tyrrell has.
Oh, that's Elrond.
Elrond, right. I like the scene where he introduces, Rachel and Deckard are introduced for the very first time, and he says, I'd like to see this tech work on a human, because I want to see a negative result, knowing that Rachel was, already knowing that Rachel was replicant. And I liked it after we'd seen him asking her a few questions. He asked her to leave the room because he doesn't want her to know. And he says, look, she's a replicant, isn't she? And he's like, yeah. And he says, it's interesting because normally you would ask a normal replicant 20 or 30 questions to be able to know. And Harrison Ford has to ask her 100 questions. And the reason he has to ask her so many is simply because she believes she's human.
It's also because she's the latest model, though, isn't it? The same model as Rory Batty, isn't she? I think.
Or even
higher.
Or even higher, because they're Nexus 6, aren't they?
Nexus 6.1.
Yeah, because they're in production, aren't they? Because they're already working off the world.
Or you could say Nexus T800. Maybe. Oh, that's been used already. Nexus 6.1.
World's crossing over.
How did she get her hair from that beautiful little bun?
Into that.
It's the 80s, man. All of his hair was like that in the 80s.
She's got this lovely little beautiful, like absolutely gorgeous, like robotic hairstyle that doesn't move at all. And then she does a little clip.
That's when she's at when she's at work. You know?
Massive booth on comes out.
One thing I was going to say that I was thinking about when I was watching it, it's like, so Blade Runner, like, incredibly influential and things, but when it came out, it didn't do very well, did it?
No.
It wasn't massively appreciated. But I must admit, when I was watching it, I felt like I could understand why it wasn't that successful. Nothing to do with the quality or anything like that. But the story's like really simple and really like elongated, stretched out. It's a very long kind of a first half of the movie, isn't it? The first half of the movie is just Harrison Ford, like, basically looking miserable and walking around in the rain. And then in the second half, when you meet Roy Batty and stuff like that, it suddenly flips. Roy Batty. Yeah, it suddenly flips, and you spend loads of time with him and Daryl Hannah's character and stuff, don't you? And then it becomes like absolutely mesmerising. But it's not until the second half. And then Harrison Ford's character's barely in it until he turns up for the finale. So I can imagine, like, most cinema goers would see that and think,
I think most cinema goers were probably like me and wanted another Han Solo or another Indiana Jones. And here's a science fiction action thing with robots in it. Oh, it's quite slow. But remember at the time that when it first came out, it had that narration. So a lot of those scenes where it's just Harrison Ford driving from here to there, and it's just the music on the final cut.
Yeah.
But on the original cut, there was a lot of narration. But I found that even though it doesn't have the narration now, and it's just the music, and it's, as we say, it's just Harrison Ford driving to places or being in the spinner going to places, it doesn't seem to drag.
Didn't drag for me.
It's that music and that atmosphere is.
Well, do you know what? You brought up a really good point there as well, the music. I mean, Vangelis, what a score, eh?
The sound is incredible.
The way the way it's pitched for that sort of film as well, the sci-fi angle of that score, you could use that score in a sci-fi film now and it still works.
Yeah, it's otherworldly.
It's really beautiful.
Takes you to another place completely.
Totally beautiful.
And it's not one of those scores that's just pieces of music. It's suddenly like something happens and it's a big swelling of like orchestral swelling that then echoes into the background, and you're like, what?
I think I might have this wrong, but I think Vangelis also at the time, which would have been early 80s, he also did the score for a film called The Mission with Robert De Niro, also another big famous score. I'm pretty sure that's Vangelis too, but that would have had a different feel to it to suit that film too. So it's not like he's just...
He did Chariots of Fire.
Yes,
Did he do Omen as well, or Exorcist or something?
No, Exorcist was Tubular Bells.
Oh, Mark Oldfield.
Mark Oldfield, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, oh God, what a score! Before I watched that today, if you'd said to me, "What's your favourite of the two?" Because we haven't talked about the sequel at all yet, right? Okay.
I've been trying not to.
No, I know. I would have said, because a lot of people watched the sequel that are big original Blade Runner fans that were lukewarm, and then there were a lot of them that watched it and thought, great. I watched it and I thought it was awesome. I love the sequel.
I think it's a masterpiece.
Right? And if you'd asked me today earlier what's my favourite of the two, I would have said the sequel, right? But now that I've rewatched that, two totally kind of different kind of films on different kind of levels. That's a lot deeper, I think. What do you think?
I think that they are perfect companions.
It's great.
I really struggle with this one is better or that one is better, but I think they are perfect companions.
You like it then, obviously too, yeah.
I think they work really well together, really well.
Have you seen the sequel yet?
Yeah, a couple of times.
We saw it in the cinema.
Oh, did you? Oh, well, what a place to see it.
It was opening weekend with just us three in the cinema.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Just three of you on opening weekend?
Yeah, well, there wasn't very many in there.
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That's Blade Runner for you.
Didn't do very well.
No.
Again,
I think I prefer the first one out of the two.
Yeah.
I can't tell you why though, but again, weirdly, I'm this sort of person whereas in another week's time, if I sat here with the three of us here and watched the sequel, I'd now be sitting there going, oh my God, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show how good they both are, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're both really good. Yeah.
But when you talk about sequels, if you talk about sequels with films, what's the best sequels that have ever made? There won't be a lot, unrightly so, there will be a lot of people that won't mention Blade Runner 2046. They'll say Aliens, which you still haven't seen.
Yeah, Aliens, Terminator 2,
Terminator 2, Judgment Day,
The Dark Knight,
Godfather 2.
Yeah.
All of these will come up as really big sequels. Not many people will remember to think about. But again, that's
because nobody's seen it.
Brilliant though. What sci-fi storytelling? Yeah.
There is a feeling that it's almost the last of its kind, because Blade Runner wasn't very successful, but then like people are like, oh, actually that's amazing. The sequel wasn't very successful either, and it's like, mind you, they made Dune. I think Blade Runner's at like 20 times better than Dune.
Same director as well, Dune, isn't it? The new Dune, same guy that directed the sequel.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, Denis Villeneuve, aren't they?
I didn't realise that.
Yeah. And yeah, Dune got massively well. I know, going off on a tangent with that was hugely well received by both films, right? I mean, he's clearly a great director, but I reckon you could talk to 100 people easily and say, what's your favourite top 5 films? Not hardly any would say Blade Runner, which is a shame because it is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know about like people like us, like men our age.
I think a certain population of cinephiles that
I think there'd be a lot, but it's actually better than I remembered. I always remember it being brilliant, but I didn't know. I didn't really understand how well crafted it was until I watched it today with you guys. I mean, I kind of did, but I don't think it sank in the whole thing, the whole picture. Do you know what I mean? It's incredible.
I can appreciate as an older person as well the quality of the acting in that too. Actually,
and everybody's in the same movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing. They're all in the same movie. They're all matching the same tone.
Daryl Hannah was amazing.
Yeah, wasn't she?
Oh my God! Talk about portraying a woman that's going to take advantage of like a lonely man.
I know that's sad.
And then like every time she needs to switch off, she just switched off. It's like, Jesus
That
Christ.
bit where Batty walks into the apartment and then she's like, "Oh, hi, Roy." Oh my God! Yeah, I know. It's like
this is the friend I told you about.
The quiet menace of Roy when he's marching JF Sebastian into the Tyrell stay.
Do you know the creepiest scene for me is the whole build up with him in the Tyrell court just before he kills what's his first name?
Elrond.
Yeah. That whole tit for tat between him and then is quite it's gentle, and it's actually Batty that looks as though he's a bit and he just you can't give me what I want, so
As people who've seen the film before, there's the bit where Roy Batty says to Aaron, basically, what can I do for you? And he says, I want more life. In the original cut, he said, fucker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But in this cut, he says, father.
My son.
And when I first heard the father, I thought, have they censored it? But I think it poses an interesting question as to what works best. Because the original is obviously quite aggressive. I've come for more life.
Yeah.
And the second one,
I like that.
Calling him father.
That's nice.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
I like that. I did find it weird when he said father. Yeah, I did kind of like. I didn't realise why. But,
and I don't know which one was dubbed. I don't know if he originally said.
It wasn't two takes.
Who knows?
Yeah,
that's really interesting. I like that though. I like that because it does change that scene, makes it even more powerful. You know, this is my.
So you prefer the father?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Rather than the. Yeah.
What do you prefer?
I think it's a bit more on the button saying father. It's a bit like trying to like if you haven't understood the point yet.
It keeps alluding to it, doesn't it? Quite hard to meet your maker, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite an arty film actually. That's one of the other reasons I was thinking like maybe why it wasn't so popular back in the days. Like us as like geeks, we geek out on all the neon lights and flying ships and stuff like that. But for Joe Blogg, who's not particularly into sci-fi, it's quite it's quite an artistically filmed. And some of the camera angles were amazing. Like you know what negative space is in a film, right? Like. I'm talking to you, the camera will usually be like framed like that, but it was framed like that with Harrison Ford looking into the side of the frame with space behind him, which is like quite a like an avant-garde filming technique that's used now. And if they were using it back then in 1982 in a sci-fi film, it's like wow.
I like the way he would use the light when they were in apartments, especially in Deckard's apartment. Obviously, flying cars are going past the window. We know that, but we only know that because the light from them, the headlights, causing beams to come through the blinds that are in his.
For the whole film. There was a couple of shots where the lights weren't moving on his face, and it really stood out because it was the only part in the film where lights went swirling around everywhere. So.
I was just going to say, I think they really played on the film noir thing and playing on the 30s and 40s. Private detective, private investigator thing with the light streaming through the blinds. He's always in silhouette in a long trench.
I mean, what's dedication like? How many? We'll have to check the credits and see how many people were just in charge of running around with fog machines.
Fog wrangler.
Those days, yeah. Fog wrangler outside. From what I remember, the making of featurettes that you get with Bladerunner are absolutely stunning. Some of the best, and it really shows you about how they built the sets, how they lit them, and like.
I think not just the sets. I think that whole private investigator film noir vibe. The costuming, I think, is incredible.
Well done.
Oh, well done for mentioning that. I wouldn't have thought to have said that, but you're right.
Well said.
Yeah,
it's all kind of classic. Kind of 30s and 40s feel.
It's like neo-classical with a big sharp
collar. But then with futuristic extra buttons here and
the big shoulders, the extra big shoulders. And
I love that snake woman who put on the see-through rain jacket.
Of course she did.
Oh,
That's the costume you remember, is it? Chris?
where we won't call that.
Yeah, brilliant. My favourite costume actually was James Olmos's costume with the dicky bow and with his cane and stuff.
Coat in the hat.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I really like that.
And is it, forgive me if I get his name wrong, James Hong, the guy who makes the eyes? His costume.
Yeah.
I love the kind of aesthetic that has been set by films like Alien and like Star Wars, where it's future tech, but it's very lived in and used. It's not all clean and
There's nothing flashy about it.
yeah, it's really industrial. And I thought his costume with pipes. I can only imagine the concept art for it.
Yeah.
With all these pipes.
You're going to wear a really warm coat, but we're going to make sure it's extra warm. We're going to put pipes in the back. We're going to vacuum hot air.
Did you notice as well in that scene, because he's the eye guy?
Yeah.
Did you notice like Roy Batty's Roy Batty's bright blue iridescent eyes to really emphasise the fact that it's like
the things I've seen with your eyes.
Yeah.
What a line,
right?
What a line!
Incredible line, right? I used to think that the obvious line that most people remember is his death speech, right? Which I'd love to be able to remember off the top of my head and impress women with, but obviously I've never been able to.
Because that is the thing to impress women.
Obviously. I mean, as we've already
quite
found,
Bladerunner.
with Claire, why am I still single? 54. That's why. But I mean, it's an incredible line. But by me just remembering that only has taken me away from how many other cracking bits of dialogue are in that.
Brilliant script.
Yeah.
Brilliant script.
Yeah, really good. Talking of Batty, even now watching, I mean, Rutger Hauer's like he in the 80s he popped up in loads of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favourite films with him in are this. I've got a cheesy favourite of his as Blind Fury.
I was going to say Blind Fury.
Hitchers.
The Hitchers, the other one, yeah. He's terrifying in the end. I mean, he's terrifying anyway. In a quiet. It's like he's kind of like this animal that doesn't do much until he needs to do it, and then when time comes,
Confident in your own.
He's just left to run, isn't there? There's an urban myth about that famous speech at the end that it wasn't in the script.
That it was
ad-libbed.
Yeah.
He ad-libbed that, did he?
Yeah.
That's
apparently.
What?
Yeah. That's
Incredible. That's brilliant. I love that. That's like the Indianapolis.
That's
speech,
the urban
isn't it?
myth anyway. I think it's true, but I can't.
I'm not sure if he ad-libbed it on set or whether he ad-libbed
Maybe
it
he
before.
wrote it down.
Oh, to the director.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, or you might know, Gavin. So Daryl Hannah's character, when she gets shot, and she's like shaking around on the floor and stuff. What is that? Is it like, because it's the kind of reaction you'd normally expect from like something that isn't real. But
Yeah, but I don't know if you noticed when each of them died, they all die in like really weird ways. When Zora dies, the lady with the
Snake.
plastic case, you might remember her.
I know her very well.
But when she dies and she's flat on the floor and they lift her up, she's already really stiff.
Stiff, isn't she?
And when Leon gets shot, he drops, he's stiff. And they just, it's not
Maybe
human, is
the
it?
suggestion is, depending on what part of them he's hit, would depend on how, because they're a machine at the end of the day, an AI, all thinking, all knowing machine, but
They're not
still,
machines though, are they? They're organic.
Yeah.
You did see though when you saw her bullet wound, Daryl Hannah's bullet wound, when Batty goes down, you can see there's machinery there. A little bit, nothing major, and they bleed, and they're obviously covered in the skin and everything. But underneath all of that, they're still manufactured. So does it mean that maybe, I'm only throwing this out as a suggestion, of course, depending on where they get shot, might depend on how they then react. Is there does he hit one and there's a proper kill switch?
Well, that's the
And that's
genius
it
of this film. There's so many little intricacies. Everything's been thought about in such minute, fine detail.
I mean, when Batty goes to kiss, I'm always using the actors' names. When Batty goes to kiss Daryl Hannah,
Chris.
thank you, thanks. Good somebody here knows what they're talking about. Maybe I should just go. We'll get Duke in there. You two can.
Look to the Bladerunner ship.
When he goes to kiss Pris when she's dead, her tongue is out slightly. After he's kissed her, her tongue's not out anymore. And you just think, they haven't done that by mistake. There's no way she'd have done that by mistake, because you would know that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a really, really, use the word again, it's a really visceral moment. And there's a lot of visceral moments in there, I think.
I really love that scene where Deckard gets to the room where all the dolls are and things like that, and he's creeping around with his gun, and you've got Daryl Hannah there, like, as a, with the thing over her face. But then to her left, there's another human that looks like a doll who's going like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning set design.
Yeah, great set design. Well, great set designs, full stop. But yeah, that's a really good scene.
Yeah. To put that woman in going like that, because you haven't seen her before in any of the, at least the attention hasn't been drawn to it. Then as soon as you like step away and start looking at her, it's then Daryl Hannah. It's like really amazing effect.
Very amazing. Yeah, it's good scene. Bit of trivia that might be right or wrong, and I'm with the right person, I feel, to ask now without having to Google. Google. Instead of Google. I'm just going to Google it. So Dougal, you know when Daryl Hannah first meets Jay...
Sebastian.
Thank you.
Puts her hand through the glass.
Yeah.
Wasn't meant to happen.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. Because she injures herself, doesn't she?
I'm not sure whether she injured herself, but yeah, her putting her hand through the glass was...
When she runs into the car, do you remember? She smashes the pane of glass because she trips. And her elbow goes into the pane of glass of the car.
It's so real, the trip, isn't it?
And that's... Yeah, it's not, because she wasn't supposed to do that. That's not like
that's not sugar glass.
No, it's actual glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she actually does not supposed to do that.
I think
you can tell you can't act that the way she slipped.
It's incredible when when actors stay in the scene and stay in character. Oh, your bag.
Yeah.
And then they just carry on.
I mean, I've just put my elbow through a pane of glass. Carry on. That's like, who's it? Leonardo DiCaprio does it in Django Unchained. He smashes his hand down on the table and he cut his hand really bad. And he carries on, even to the point where he goes up to one of the actors, and smears a bit of blood on her or something afterwards. But yeah, and it's just like,
the thing about acting is you're so full of adrenaline.
In the moment.
It's mad. And that's why it's so hard to find like actors that can like slow everything down, talk calmly, do you know what I mean, and be a normal person. Because they've like got adrenaline pouring through. There's like £1 million set with all these cameras and directors and producers looking at them and stuff, and all these lights on and things, and everything's like, you better get this right. If you get this take wrong, that's another 15 grand it's cost us.
Yeah, no digital here, mate.
It's a tangenting, but when you put it like that, you can understand why somebody like Christian Bale had that flair.
Yes,
Terminator
Salvation.
Yeah, I think that people are quite cool to him about that, actually, because he did apologise. He did apologise, yeah, but you're right. He'd have been ready for that scene, really sorted, really important scene. And then the one person that you wouldn't expect to do something like that was like the chief DP or something, wasn't it? Just walks across in his viewpoint.
Sorry.
Yeah. So you can understand that, It's just a shame that it got recorded, because I tell you what, I bet there's loads of other big actors that probably have, in the moment, got across, but it's never been recorded.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Oh, I bet I love Tom Hanks. No, he'd be like,
English motherfucker!
No, father. Dub it.
Yeah,
English mother father.
Do you speak it?
Right. Now, are there any other points you can think that you'd want to talk about that we haven't talked about that are important to you with this film, Dougal?
I would like to talk very briefly, or as much as you guys would like to talk about. I think the world building is amazing in this film, and it does so much show without having to tell. Just with those almost like zeppelins that fly around the city, telling you about advertising off-world.
Mm.
You've got this understanding that you've got replicants working off-world, so it's got to be some hazardous work that they're doing, but by the same token, they're advertising to humans to come and live in this new utopian off-world, and LA doesn't seem too great. The Bradbury building where the final scenes take place is all bleak in its it's deserted and what have you. So, yeah, let's talk a bit about the world outside of
Is the idea being that in the cities, the poorer you are, the lower down you live, the higher up in the buildings you go, the more money you perhaps may have because you're coming away from the grimness that's on the ground level?
It's not really. It's not really shown that that's a fact. No,
No,
not really.
Deckard had, when you look at
he was 93 floors up.
he was 93 floors up, but he also had quite a sprawling apartment. When you do think about the sequel and you think about Kay's apartment, he had one room and the kitchen off that room.
It's like Sebastian's apartment. It's like a mansion. It's
Absolutely,
like,
but the whole building's abandoned.
Yes,
isn't it?
abandoned.
so why is it abandoned? Is there not like
Leaking.
a problem with overpopulation?
But remember, she says to him that she talks about the condition that he's got, this Methuselah syndrome.
Yeah,
What was the reason that he wasn't off world? So it seems that loads and loads of people have gone off. Maybe it's the more wealthy that have gone off.
One thing I found quite interesting is like the film's 30 years old, 35 or
longer.
whatever it is.
40.
Like a lot of the big signs outside were like for Coke and things like that.
Yeah.
And I can imagine like when we watched it 40 years ago, you'd be like, well, what else are they going to put up there? Little known that in 40 years' time, Coke's still this massive these big brands.
Coke's the exception, isn't it?
Did you see Atari?
Because Atari, Pan Am,
Yeah.
TDK, they all went under, didn't they? It was almost like the curse of Bladerunner.
So everybody out there, TDK used to make tape, and you could either listen to this tape on headphones through a machine, and it would play music. This tape would, wouldn't it, as it went round? Amazing. I don't know how they've made it work. It must have been harder to make that work than digital. Tapes, right? TDK. What was the advert? The tape advert with the skeleton guy.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna
do. Yeah.
Re-record, not fade away.
Thank you.
Yes.
Re-record, no, I'll fade away. So I told you. Google. I told you, Twist. Google. See? Google. Just Google it. Okay, so on that point then, okay, interesting fact for you, but you might know this, but you might not. And I only say you might not know it because you've not seen Aliens.
Okay.
So Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
So you do know that. I can see from the excitement in your face. Cheeky little wink. He's getting giddy. So
Wayland Corporation.
Yeah. So basically, when James Cameron did
He's already answered it, and he only bloody asked the question.
when James Cameron does Aliens,
Yeah.
there's a scene in Aliens where Sigourney Weaver is being quizzed by the Weyland-Yutani company, right? And now she's being quizzed about the ship in Alien that you have seen that got blown up.
Yeah.
The crew members of that ship are coming up on a screen. And one of the crew members is Dallas from Alien. And he comes up, but also underneath him comes a record of his employment. And on that record at the bottom, it says the Tyrrell
Corporation.
You do that!
So nerd, but yes, it's amazing, isn't it?
So it's kind of James Cameron, not Ridley Scott didn't do it, but James Cameron's kind of merging the universe a little bit.
But Ridley, if you want to impress me, get Gladiator in the same world. Then we'll be talking.
There you go. There you go. Well, you go. We're nearly done.
The dog's barking.
I watched Gladiator last week, funnily enough. Not because we were going to do this, because I had a friend of mine who'd never seen Gladiator. So my friend Owen and his wife Katie, if you're watching, we just come back from Wales. She's never seen Gladiator, so we popped Gladiator on for her. My God. Yeah. And I'll tell you again, another one of those films where you think, I should have watched this more than I have. That film's cracking. But anyway, have you seen Gladiator?
Yeah.
Off on a tangent. Yeah, well, there you go. Ridley Scott.
Sequel incoming.
Yeah. Right, okay. Can we get Duke to start?
Well, I don't think we talked enough about the world building because it's like absolutely shocking. It's like I was saying before, the depths of the story didn't really sink into me as a young man because I purely watched that film for the first 3 or 4 times I watched it. Just watched it for the world building.
I was just going to say, from a social commentary point of view, when you look at it as an older person, you start to notice the massive Japanese influence throughout the whole city. There's Japanese wording everywhere on the buildings, Japanese women.
Is the suggestion there then that in the future, like in Firefly, in the future, certain countries have become stand out and more powerful. So ergo, maybe even around the world, those are the sort of countries that have kind of become more prevalent. So Japanese or Chinese or because in Firefly they do a similar thing where they have a language that's kind of mixed between some of the stronger nations maybe that have merged together.
There was in America during the 80s, there was like a running joke around kind of Japan taking over America by stealth with technology, because they were making like videos,
Right.
microwaves, they made and I just wonder whether there's a lot of corporate adverts in there in the movie, massive building-sized adverts. You've got Japan almost taking over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's okay. And that would make sense from it being early 80s as well as a film.
Absolutely.
The suggestion there is pretty cool, isn't it? It would make sense.
As a social commentary.
Yeah, interesting.
Would you call it dystopia?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like it just looks like a city that's always raining at night and raining, doesn't it? There's no, they haven't over tried to emphasise the difference between poor and rich. The film isn't about that, is it? It's not about social injustice. Well, obviously it is a little bit with the replicants.
I think Tyrell really shows he's a representation of the rich, isn't he? He's very, very far removed from the street level, as we said. Up in that tower where he can't be reached unless you go up in that elevator.
Yeah.
All right, what were you going to say? You've got roundups.
Yeah, no. Only if everyone's happy. I don't want to feel because I'll be happy. I could make this a 3. Yeah, we could make this a 3-hour clip if you wanted to. I don't mind, honestly. I just I want to make sure that we have got everything out on the table because there's so much to take in on that. I don't want anyone to think I'm cutting it short. So, anything else that you want to highlight? I'm sure afterwards you always go home and I'll do anyway. I think, why didn't I? Especially when it's one of my favourites, I've shown him. I'm like, I didn't talk about.
Well, things to. We've talked about the set design, but also the sound design, not just the score. The sound of Deckard's gun. It's very similar to Indiana Jones's gun, but just over the top booming gun, and it's I'm not into gun porn, but it is a bloody good looking gun.
I like the sound. I liked all the sound they did when Deckard and Batty first meet and have not Batty, Deckard and the other Leon. Yeah. Well, and he's probably getting battered, but you feel it as well. Yeah. And the sound.
Harrison Ford really does sell a punch and a beat at world.
Yeah, he does. He smashes him into the car's windscreen and throw, all that sort of stuff.
It's certainly a nice touch, isn't it? We just going on again now. When he has that little shot and then like little blood goes into the liquid, it's like, what a way to sell, you're communicating, Like.
And I've never seen, you mentioned it, I've never seen that before in any of the versions I've seen. The drink, when he's drinking what could easily be what we're drinking, except it's got loads of worms in it, like a tequila worm, but loads of them.
Yeah, like mezcal, but times 5.
Yeah.
All right, let's
sum up.
Let's. Have you got a summing up you want to communicate, or are you just happy to?
Well, I would just say that once again, I think Blade Runner is a fantastic film, as just an A to B film of good guy chases bad guy. But also, I would say if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it for a long time, watch it as an older person and try and understand that question of how long am I going to be around? Because I think as you get older, you get a real understanding of your own mortality.
Yeah.
And I think the film really, really plays with that question in a really, really interesting way when you know that your window of opportunity to live is so small.
Wow, well said.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
But you do get different things from it. As an older guy, I'm definitely picking up different things. What about yourself?
Me, I'm going to say brilliant director already. Anyway, I love most of his films, if not all of them. I think there's only about one of his I don't really like, but other than that, great anyway. Visually, Ridley Scott is one of the best directors. He came from music videos initially, both him and
Doesn't surprise me.
yes, you can see that, can't
Yeah,
you?
doesn't surprise me.
Him and his brother Tony Scott, same. They started with music videos and went into film from there, and you can really see it visually. He always knocks it out of the park.
They used to do
right?
ads as well, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Ads. Yeah, adverts. I think actually adverts probably what they did first.
Yeah,
first
it was ads. Yeah.
Rewatching that, I was like I said, it was like watching it afresh, and I really enjoyed it. Trouble is, I always give. At the moment, it seems like I'm giving just about everything a really high score.
Well, that's what we do. We watch films we like. That's the whole point of
I know. When
movies.
people watch our videos, you just think, well, Gavin's that big fat baldy there. They just keep saying everything's a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Trust me, if it's not, I will say. I did say I didn't. Pleasure to hear this, but I didn't enjoy Beetlejuice as much as perhaps I thought I would, and that got probably my lowest score so far. But even that was a 7. That's a 10 out of 10 sci-fi film for me, Duke.
Okay, that's amazing.
It really is. And yeah, if I'm going to say something really big now, if Alien wasn't my favourite Ridley Scott film, then Blade Runner would be very close to being that favourite of his films, I think. There you go.
It's quite the jump for him. And when you look back at, I think Alien's fantastic. I saw it quite recently, and having not seen it before, some of it didn't look as perhaps finessed as if it was made today.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair enough comment.
But I think that the jump, it was 78?
Yeah, 79.
70,
yeah,
70,
pretty
a 3-year jump from that
to Blade Runner.
to Blade Runner. I think as a filmmaker,
Understand.
yeah, well done.
What do you know? What his film was that was after Blade Runner? That's interesting.
I do not.
I can't think myself actually. Interesting. I might do. If we were going to have a question, that could be it. But we're not having one today.
It's Google, not no.
No. Okay.
All right.
Let's Google it.
I'm wondering why it's only like old blokes like us that appreciate Blade Runner. It's like I don't know many women that appreciate it. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's just that we don't know many women.
I think that's probably more the case, Twiz, that we don't know.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think it's very niche. I think it's a lot more niche than we realise. But within that niche, it's absolutely spectacular and full of good acting and imagery and things. But
It's very well respected.
I want to watch it again, literally next week, by myself. And I want to take in. But the thing that maybe blew me away the most was the sound design.
Well, I want to do a similar sort of thing, but I want to watch it in surround now. So I want to watch it in my cinema room in surround.
Which, by the way, Duke might be getting his own cinema room at some point. And if he does, we're going.
And guess what?
Man caves on location.
And guess what film we're going to watch?
Aliens. As I've never seen Aliens.
This time it's war. Get away from her, you bitch.
Don't call me that.
That's right, isn't it?
Oh,
Right. Okay. Well, thanks. Well, first of all, again, thanks everybody for joining us. If you like, please hit like and subscribe. Again, we're up to 288 now. We're really, trying to grow our channel. That's really great of you. Thank you very much. Anybody new out there, again, thank you. And I guess we'll see you for the next one.
Thank you, Duke.
Thank you very much indeed
Yeah,
for having me.
absolutely.
Thank you, seriously.
Thank you so much, Duke. A real pleasure. Thank you.
Everyone go, yo!
Yo!
Thumbnail!
Man caves and margaritas. Joe, Liz, and Gavin talking about their favorite features.